Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Reinke, and I'm an Associate Professor of Human Development and Family Studies at Colorado State University. And today I will be presenting I Think I Can, I Know I Can, Student Self-Efficacy and Growth Mindset During COVID. Today I'm going to present some data, some survey data from some surveys that I implemented in my class, one of my classes throughout the fall 2020 semester. And those surveys really stem from a larger study called the Student Experience Project. So let me just say a little bit about the Student Experience Project. Student Experience Project is a multi-institutional initiative in institutions of higher education across the United States that is focused on increasing college students' sense of belonging, their growth mindset, identity safety, self-efficacy, and social connectedness. So what I did was use some of the surveys and a tool that's within the Student Experience Project and implemented the survey at 5 times throughout the semester in one of my courses to get student feedback in real time and make changes and adaptations in real time, rather than waiting till those student evaluations at the end of the semester or doing maybe one check-in at the midpoint and then again at the end. I wanted to be able to adapt and pivot as needed, especially during COVID when students' needs were changing and resources were changing, and really kind of the college culture and what was going on in our world was changing every day. So the survey that I implemented was called the Co-Pilot Ascend survey. And the survey asked students really their experiences in 6 main areas. One is trust and fairness. Do they feel the instructor is trustworthy and being fair? Do they feel the instructor has an institutional growth mindset? So does the instructor believe that they are capable of expanding and growing their knowledge and abilities? Identity safety. So does the student feel safe to be who they are and bring their true selves to the class? Self-efficacy. So do they feel confident in being able to author their own course and their own experience? Do they feel like they've been given the necessary tools and resources to be successful? And then social belonging and social connectedness, which are similar but importantly different. So social belonging was really seen as, does the student feel like they belong in the course? Do they belong in the course? Do they belong on this college campus? Do they belong in this setting with these students, with this instructor? And social connectedness is, how connected do they feel to other students and to the instructor? Do they feel like they have relationships and they have these connections as community setting within the course? So those were the 6 categories that students were asked about, both quantitatively and then also open-ended questions. So this image on the left is really the process that I implemented throughout the semester. I would survey students, review the feedback, learn new practices, implement new things based on that feedback, and then survey them again. So I sent my first survey at the beginning of the semester before classes ever started to get a baseline. I then surveyed them after the first exam when they had a chance to kind of get some feedback in terms of how they're doing in the course and what they're learning. And another couple times after major assignments or papers were submitted, and then again at the end, kind of making tweaks along the way based on what students shared with me. For this presentation, I'm only going to focus on 2 of these tenets, which are institutional growth mindset and self-efficacy. So the class that I implemented the surveys in was HDFS 101, Individual and Family Development. So I will share how I implemented these surveys and what their results were, what the students' results were. So in this course, it was a 16-week course, and it was taught in a hybrid fashion where the live sessions were optional. So of the 120 students, the course could safely be attended by 60 students on Tuesday and the other 60 students on Thursday. And then students also had the option of fully attending online, so they never had to step foot into the class. And there was no synchronous lectures. So when I would meet with those students who chose to come to the live sessions, I was not lecturing. All the lectures were pre-recorded. Rather, it was a time for us to discuss upcoming assignments or revisit some of the material and some of the harder concepts that were already presented, but it wasn't any new information. The students who chose to participate fully online could go back and review those recorded sessions, but again, it wasn't mandatory and there were there's no requirement that students attend in person. There was the majority of the class was non-majors, non-HDFS majors, and the majority of the class was also freshmen. So again, I addressed self-efficacy and growth mindset, and I want to talk a little bit about how I addressed these and what I did. And I'll talk about this in three main categories: what I did on the first day, what I did and what I communicated in the syllabus, and then also student communications on a more general and broader level. So on the very first day, I introduced a student experience project. I let students know that I would be gathering their feedback at 5 times throughout the semester, and the surveys were optional. They did get 2 points of extra credit for every time they completed a survey, but they were anonymous. So I could see that a student completed it, but I could not see their specific responses. I also asked students what they wanted to get out of the course, and I framed it as this. I said, let's dream bigger than getting an A. I know you all want to get an A in this course, but what do you really want to know? So what is the best thing that could happen in this course? What will have to happen for you to say this was an awesome class? And how will you know this class was worth your tuition dollars? It was through this conversation that I learned from students that they were really interested in taking this course to help them find out what they wanted to do for their career. They knew they wanted to work with people and help people, but they didn't know if they wanted to work with children in a school setting or work with older people in an assisted living setting. So they were hoping to learn about development across the lifespan, which is exactly what the course covered, and hear about a topic or observe or see or read something that really stuck with them and helped them define their career path. On the very first day, I also said every student in this class is capable of earning an A. And I shared that at Colorado State University is ranked number 153 nationally and has an acceptance rate of 81%. Just given those statistics, students have already proven that they are capable of college level coursework, and they would not be here if they were not. And I also said, I'm okay if everyone gets an A in this class, that I don't have any sort of statistics or figures in my mind in terms of what percentage of students could get an A, and that I have made every attempt to create a well-organized course that will support and encourage student success and mastery of the learning objectives. I said this is step one. Step two is it's really on the student to bring their best self to the course and put in the time and energy and effort required to master the learning objectives and really strengthen their knowledge about lifespan development. I frame this as baking a cake, and I referred to this analogy several times throughout this semester of I will give you the ingredients, I will give you the recipe, but every student has to bake their own cake. To also promote self-efficacy, I implemented a question protocol, and this is the language I used in the syllabus. So I said something prior to this, like, when you have questions in this course, and you will, this is the procedure I'd like for you to follow. And this wasn't to try to communicate to students like, look, don't reach out to me. This was trying to communicate to students like, these are the tools that you have. These are the resources that you have available to you. You just have to use them. And to kind of have that written down served as a good reminder so students know where to go when they had questions. Finally, in the syllabus, I reframed the course requirements as opportunities to excel. And I use that language in the syllabus, I use that language in all my announcements, and when I talked about course assignments, I would say opportunities to excel. So within the opportunities to excel, there were lots of opportunities for students to choose their own adventure and really author their own experience in the course. So they could choose which activities they completed. They could choose which writing prompts they responded to or which short answer exam questions they responded to. They could choose even which quizzes they completed, knowing that the lowest quiz was going to be dropped. So they had a lot of choice in the class. And with that, I was hoping to empower students, again, to really author their own experience, built on the idea of promoting their own self-efficacy. In student communications, I spent a lot of time focused on how things were stated and found that sometimes I spent way more time than necessary being really careful about the language I chose when I was writing emails or writing course announcements, because I think how things are stated is sometimes much more important than what is actually being stated. And it's that tone and trying to communicate that tone. one of the things I would do when students reached out to me asking questions, not following the question protocol, I would say, in an effort to promote student resourcefulness and self-efficacy, I encourage you to read the assignment instructions. I encourage you to look at page 9 in the syllabus. I encourage you to ask your peers, especially with things that I know the answer was in those materials that I would encourage them to take a look at. I also used exam pep talks and wrappers in the course. So an exam pep talk, I would say something like, and kind of like record a video message or write out an announcement that said, I encourage you to take a deep breath and trust what you know and find your inner confidence. You've done the hard part. You've done the readings. You've done the assignments. Now is the time to really demonstrate all that you've learned so far in our course. I would also say this is not an easy exam. If it was an easy exam, it would be a valid assessment of this class. And I believe all students are capable of completing more than just an easy exam. And at the end, then I will go over the most likely to be missed questions and follow up with a message of, in the instance you didn't do as well as you had hoped, I want to remind you the warm-up exam is only worth 5% of your grade. There's lots of other opportunities to excel, and your score is not a determinant of how smart you are. I encourage you to reflect on what methods you use to prepare for this exam and identify what you might do differently next time. I also encourage students to notice not only the questions they got wrong, but also the questions they got right, to really encourage them to not just focus on kind of this innate sort of idea that they may not be a good test taker. So my survey results varied a little bit over the course of the semester, but in terms of institutional growth mindset, they remained quite high, which I was pretty pleased with. I do want to say that this was an optional survey. All the surveys were optional, and the 2 points of extra credit were awarded. But the number of students who took the survey really dwindled across the semester. So I started with about 55% of students taking the survey and ended with 22%. So just keeping that in mind when we're looking at these results. So about 88% of students at the beginning of the semester believed that I already had an institutional growth mindset and believed that their knowledge and understanding and talent could be further developed, ending with 92%. So there is about a 4% gain in students' institutional growth mindset and perception of my growth mindset. Some of the qualitative results were this. So there have been no limits set towards individuals' accomplishments. She has high expectations for everyone. Our professor always makes sure we know that tests don't show us how smart we are, and everything depends on the amount of effort you want to put into things. That was a typo. The more you practice something, the more likely you are to get it right next time. So the messaging that I was trying to get across, it really sounded like students were understanding that and kind of saying it again and repeating it in these surveys. My survey results for self-efficacy also started high and remained pretty high over time. So starting with 85% and ending with 88%, just a tiny little 1% dip at the end. Some of the qualitative results here, like Dr. Reinke gives us everything that we need to succeed with all the knowledge and materials that were given to us. The only other thing that we need to succeed is pushing ourselves, which is something that comes from within. I believe I've been given all the necessary tools and resources to get a perfect grade in this class. It is up to me to use those things and try my best. And the structure of this class is set up for student success. I know that I'm not being tricked, and if I put in the work, I'll do well. So again, the things I implemented, the first day, the syllabus, the student communications, really seem to ring true to students in terms of their own self-efficacy and their perception of my growth mindset. Some learnings and takeaways. So I'm doing it all again this semester and focused on some of the other tenets in addition to self-efficacy and institutional growth mindset. These surveys are now fully extra credit, and I'm framing them slightly differently to try to encourage further participation. I'm also focused on social connectedness and social belonging this semester and sharing the knowledge and practices and things I'm trying to implement with my graduate teaching assistants and my undergraduate teaching assistants. So there's some consistency and buy-in from the entire teaching team. I also teach 5 other courses, so I'm trying to figure out how to implement some of these practices into my other courses and which seem more meaningful and relevant and what might be more appropriate for higher levels beyond a 100 level class. So with that, I thank you very much for your time and listening to my presentation.